Hi everyone, welcome to episode 3 of Picking Daniel's Brain. So, the biggest critique that I've received from our first 2 episodes was that it's a bit too long and everybody is very busy, so they just want shorter episodes. So, we'll see if we can make them a bit shorter and maybe split up my dad's testimony in a few episodes. And we're going to title this first one Tiny Seeds. So, welcome, Dad. Let's get right into it.
Welcome, Vicky. Nice to see you again. Okay, so these tiny little seeds are things that happens in our lives, and you think they are insignificant. And so now I'm going back to 1974 when I came back from school, and my brother was in a hostel, so I was alone at home with my parents, and there was a couple having this tedious, long discussion with my parents about the topic. And when they left, I asked my mother, and she actually took the time and gave me all the evidence that these people gave that the Sabbath is actually on Saturday, it's not on Sunday. And I had a few questions that my mother actually answered. And so I just pondered a bit about, okay. Then a while later at church, we had a nice church where the pastor actually allowed people to ask questions. And somebody asked, how do we know that Jesus was actually crucified on a Friday? And the pastor easily responded and said, well, it's quite easy because in the Bible never say, it's not written that he's crucified on a Friday. But we see in John 19 that the Bible says, as the Sabbath was drawing closer, as the sun would go down on crucifixion day, a great Sabbath will start. See, so we know that Saturday is the Sabbath day, so that means Jesus must have been crucified on a Friday so that the next day would be a Sabbath. Now, that was a bit
Yeah.
confusing because my pastor actually agreed with this couple that spent time with my parents and say that Saturday is actually the Sabbath, and a bit confusing because we are going to Sunday to
Church on a
church.
Sunday, yeah.
Yes, we go to church on a Sunday. So a while later, a few Sundays later, somebody said, but what about Matthew 12, verse 38 to 40, where the religious elect people, the scribes and the Pharisees, came and asked Jesus, give us a sign that you're the Messiah. And Jesus said, well, you'll receive no sign except the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the fish, the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So to me, it makes sense that heart of the earth would be in the tomb, in the grave.
Yeah,
And
in the grave.
how, now you can say Friday, Saturday, Sunday, although he probably was put in the tomb just before sundown. So it's right at the end of Friday. And
Mm-hmm.
but how do you get 3 nights? You can't get 3 nights in from Friday to Sunday. So
No, it's 2 nights, yeah.
yes, so I was pondering about that. How does this work? If this seems so important because these religious leaders wanted him dead and wanted Jesus out of the way, and at least to ask him to give them a sign that he truly is the anointed one. And now he gives them this sign, and it also says they will receive no sign except this sign. So it seems very, very important as evidence to prove that he is the awaited Messiah. Yeah? So I
Yeah.
pondered about this for quite a long time. And then somebody asked the same question, and the pastor actually came back with this and he says it actually works on inclusive reckoning because the Hebrew people, their time system or the way they reckon time is different to the West, and any part of the day counts as the whole day. So if he went in the grave Friday afternoon, then you would actually start counting from Thursday evening because it's first the dark part of the day and then the light part of the day. So first night and then day. So on that day, when he went in on Friday, you will actually start counting the dark part in the front as well. And that was like, Now, I can hear what he say,
It's
but
confusing.
this doesn't really convince me, you know.
Yeah.
So then basically 40 years went past that I was pondering about this. And then the weird thing is at the end of 2014, a colleague of mine, Johan Swigelaar, we were in the same church and we worked together. And he was convinced by somebody to start doing Bible study early in the morning before his family woke up. And he arrived at work and he confessed that something strange has happened, that it's been almost 2 weeks that he's been doing this, waking up early and doing Bible study by himself. And he says every morning, by coincidence, he will read that Jesus will rise on the third day. And then this morning, he actually read Matthew 12, verse 40, that we are talking about. And I smiled and I
Yes.
said, yes, for years I've been wondering, how does this work?
Yes.
It doesn't make uh, sense. So, for,
Mathematical sense. Yeah.
yes. So for the next few weeks, lunchtime and tea time, we'll have discussions on this on this topic to try and figure out how does it work, you know. And I actually felt like we're in this world full of this highly educated people, and they don't seem to have an answer for this that just clears, that makes sense. So who am
Yeah.
I to actually to basically solve this problem? It seems like,
Question it. Yeah.
yes, it's like it's above my fireplace if nobody else can. Maybe the Bible is just translated incorrectly, because if we as
Yeah.
Christians believe the Bible is completely correct, then it means Jesus is not the Messiah. Because I mean, he says this is a sign, and just a little maths will prove that it didn't turn out the way that he
Yeah.
said. Yeah? So my first choice was to go to the calendar, like the pastor preached about this inclusive reckoning. And
Yeah.
now, at least I had enough knowledge about that the Gregorian calendar that we're using now descended from the Julian calendar that had some issues that weren't that accurate. And but it's definitely not the calendar that they had been using in the Old Testament. And the other thing that convinced me in Acts 2, verse 5 to 11, it was the feast of Pentecost. And the Bible actually says they, all the nations under the heavens were gathered together in Jerusalem for the feast. Yeah? Now, how did these people
Mhm.
know when to arrive for this feast? Because, you know, in the Old Testament, there was a commandment that 3 times a year all the believers should actually gather together for these feasts. And this is what we see in Acts 2. So now in Daniel 7, verse is it 25, it says that he will think or try to change times and laws. So there is a scripture in the Old
Yeah.
Testament of changing times and laws. And now we know the calendar
Mhm.
that we've got now is definitely not the original calendar. And we know in
Right.
the nations there's many different calendars. So that was my
Yes.
first approach to try and see if I can figure out or find how did the original calendar actually work. Yeah? And that was quite
Mhm.
an amazing journey. I took many different angles to try and figure out how did it work. Now, in language, they would talk about many moons ago, like in,
Mm.
it seems like a time calculation with
Yes.
moons. Eh? And
Yeah.
the weird thing with my investigation in Afrikaans, you will call, you will talk about the maan and maand. So it's just one letter different between the moon and the months, just like in English, you have
Yeah.
moon and months. Yeah?
month.
The
Yeah.
interesting thing is in our local, in South Africa with black people here, a lot of them call the moon Nyanga. And they call the months also Nyanga. Exactly the same spelling, the same
Exactly the
word.
same.
Yes, exactly the
Wow.
same. The interesting thing in Hawaii, the Hawaiian people has one word for moon and month. Japan has got one word. Yeah? New Zealand, Maoris, has got one word for moon and month. Yeah? So,
Yes, I wanted to say, Mila, we just studied that last week, the Maori calendar. And yes, that's true.
okay, I didn't even know that. But the
Yeah.
weird thing is, how can you have people all over the world with the same, they call a moon a month? Now, the weird thing,
Yeah.
it seems like in our European languages, when the Catholic system introduced the Julian calendar, that became the Gregorian calendar, they actually said, no, this is the new calendar that we'll be following now. And people that were used to following nature by basically, now this gets back to Genesis 1 verse 14, where the Bible actually say the lights in the sky, the sun, the moon, and the stars are for years, months, days, and it also says appointed time. So it's like, according to this, you can calculate because you have to plant according to the natural cycle to be in season. And it seems to
Yeah.
be like the scripture, the Bible is also written with the same seasons, so that wherever you stay, if you follow the sun, the moon, and the stars, you're on the same calendar. Because that's the only
Yes.
way it makes sense that people from all over, if you look in Acts 2 from verse 5 to 11, you will see all the nations mentioned there, and you can look on the map and see how far wide they came, up to few thousand kilometers. They went to be in time for the feast in Jerusalem. So that doesn't make
Mm.
sense if you don't have communication like WhatsApp or something like that,
Yes,
telephones.
I was thinking if you have a Google Calendar, it works. But yes, Mila's the thing we learned about the Maori calendar is they used it for fishing to know which time to the tides come in and out, and for planting. So the entire world worked on a calendar, but I think us now would not be able to do that without a Gregorian calendar.
Yes, and the calendar was automatically in sync with the seasons because you actually use the
Yeah.
celestial things that you see to follow and to correct your calendar. So that's why everybody was in sync, basically, all over that
Yeah.
knew how to do this. The weird thing
Yeah.
is we have the scriptures now, but somehow it seems like it was so easy for people to see on which day or month they were, that it was not really written down, or maybe it was what can I say, intentionally damaged or destroyed through the
Changed.
years. Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know, but so I eventually figured out the calendar 100%, and I've solved the problem. But until I found out there's people that figured out the calendar that's completely different to mine. So no, I didn't solve the calendar. But that even if I look at the different scenarios of using the calendar, for instance, the inclusive reckoning, where they say Hebrew people, if an event happened on the 15th of the day, it actually counts for the whole day. Eh? I was like, really? Do they really, like event happen? So then I thought of a scenario. I have an accident on the 15th, 23:30 at night. And the next day, when I go and report it, I will write the 15th. So we do the same. When an event happened before the change of the day, that's set on that date. But I don't think the
Yeah.
people's mind will actually go to, I had an accident the whole 24 hours of the whole day. It had happened at a certain moment. So the crucifixion
Okay.
is written that he on the third hour of the day, Jesus was crucified. On the ninth hour, he died. And then between the 9th and, because I started time from sunrise 0 and 12 hours in the day. So that's why it was dark from the 6th to the 9th hour, which is 12 o'clock till more or less 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I don't think they using time is that much different to the way we're using an event. They had a way of punctuating a certain event the same as what we are doing. So the next approach that I went to then, because after I did this took quite a long research, and I've learned quite nice,
sounds like it.
Quite nice things from it. But then it got worse.
Yeah.
So the next approach, I thought, if Jesus is the Lamb, equals the Lamb, I'm sure most Christians will agree that Jesus is the Lamb. And they had these instructions in the Old Testament on when they should do what with this lamb. So then I thought, let me read the Old Testament and try and create a timeline of when they should do, what's the procedure. Now, the other part that convinced me to do this is Luke 16 from verse 19. This is the parable where Jesus talks about the rich man and Lazarus. Now, the interesting thing is, the Bible says there was a certain rich man with fine linen, purple clothing. In our new 1983 translation, they changed that to just expensive clothes. And that was also something strange to me that I saw when our new translation came out. How did they decide just to simplify it and just put expensive clothes? Now, I'm quite convinced that nothing in the Bible is there by accident. If Jesus specified that it is purple fine linen clothing, then there's some reason.
There was a reason for that,
Yes. So now I'll just go over Luke 16 quickly. So there's this man with a certain clothes that Jesus subscribed. The first thing, if you would go and do a search, if you have a Bible app, just put this word that you find in the King James and see where do you find it the first time for this purple clothes. Then you'll see the first time it's mentioned is where God actually told Moses to anoint his brother Aaron as the first high priest. And this is the clothes that they have to make for Aaron. So I'm quite sure that throughout time, the high priests were wearing the same kind of clothes. So when Jesus was telling this in front of the crowd could actually, it's almost like there's a certain rich man, with purple fine linen clothing, and everybody could see who's
wearing the purple clothes, yes,
who's wearing the purple clothes. So now, and so, and then there's this Lazarus, this poor guy, and they both died. And then this rich man ends up in hell, and he speaks to Father Abraham. Now, Jesus is telling the story, so Father Abraham is not really in the story. And so the rich man asked Abraham, send Lazarus to my house to warn my wife and children that I don't end up here. That's not what's written there. Because if I would say, if I end up in hell and I want to send a message to people here, my wife and children will be first on the list. Go and warn them that they don't end up here. But he actually says to my father's house to warn my brothers. Now, if it was the high priest that Jesus was talking about, then it makes sense that because he actually knows why he ended up in there, and he knows that his brothers, his fellow religious leaders, are also on their way there, and that's why go and warn them. Now, the strange thing is, Jesus said, if they did not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not listen even if somebody is risen from the dead.
From the dead.
Yes.
And
And
he did raise Lazarus from the dead.
with exactly the same name. And that was not
Yeah,
long after this parable that he told. And you
yeah,
can search, you won't find a place where you will see these people actually trying to speak to Lazarus. They just, the next thing that we see in scriptures, they're having a meeting and say, well, while we kill Jesus, then we might as well just kill Lazarus because
yeah.
there's a lot more followers now believing that he is the Messiah after Lazarus were
Lazarus was raised.
raised.
Yeah.
So they're planning to destroy the evidence as well while they kill Jesus. So we could see that what Jesus said is like 100% correct. Eh? And
Wow.
so this convinced me that I should try and see what was the instructions in the Old Testament. You know, what should we do? What's written down? Why would Jesus point back to the Old Testament and see, you know, listen to Moses and the
Yeah.
prophets? And I actually started the first time in my life trying to read the Bible as you do a study for an exam, where you go and summarize and read and see what instructions is there for me, what should I do, and try and make a list of what the instructions is. Now I can tell you, when you start doing that, it becomes very, very difficult and confusing. And until I get to a point where I say, okay, there's a lot of instructions that the high priest should do this, and then the high priest should do that. And the way I understand scriptures, there's only one high priest. So the symbol of the high
Yeah.
priest from Aaron is to do atonement for the sinners and for the nation. And that's basically the role that Jesus will be take part in or accomplish. And
Mm.
so I separated all these commandments that the high priest and these Levites should do on one side, and then what is relevant to us as normal people, like me and normal
Okay.
people.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, the list becomes much shorter and much simpler. And the weirdest thing that I've realized as I was going through the Old Testament, the amount of times that the Old Testament said that says, if you hearken to listen diligently, carefully, to do all these things throughout your generations forever. It doesn't say until the crucifixion or the Messiah. It every
Forever.
now and then forever, and it punctuates that we should carefully obey and do these things. And now, if you look at what I actually start discovering, I start realizing, but we're not actually doing anything, of these commandments.
What we're supposed to. Yeah.
Yes, of what we're supposed to. So I started creating a timeline. Now I'll just put this. Vicky said I shouldn't. I don't know if you can see it. Just a timeline of a year, week, something like that. And as you read Exodus 12, it's just simple. That's the two main parts that you see a lot of these instructions in Exodus 12 and Leviticus 23. So I'd love if people that listen to me just take the time and take a piece of paper and start writing as they read. And I don't want to influence you on what's there on written on there, because perception is a great issue. So try and read carefully
Yes.
what is actually written there and what we should do when. And now we must also remember that the year January is not the start of the year. That's the start of the Gregorian calendar that we're using now. But it seems like the original calendar is spring and autumn. So it seems like on the northern hemisphere, spring was the start of the year. So without going into how the calendar actually worked, just trying to write down on which day you should do what. So that's my input for today. Because
Okay.
I met so many people that I tell my testimony, and in the end they said, okay, that's interesting, but the penny didn't drop. So if you don't know
Yes.
what the instructions in the Bible is, then you will see, because amazingly, the instructions in the Old Testament clarifies the whole crucifixion and the 3 days and the nights. And this was actually the subject that got me expelled from church. So just by summarizing the Bible and seeing, but wow, now I know how you get 3 days and 3 nights from the crucifixion. And I don't know why that is so devious to spread this message that people will not want you in church anymore.
Okay, so we've got homework. So just so I understand you correctly, I should go now and create my own calendar saying when I think the different seasons start, or how
Now
exactly should I?
forget the calendar, because the calendar you can't read in scripture except Genesis, maybe and a few other verses, but just create according to what you read in Exodus 12 and Leviticus
Okay.
23. So create a paper with a timeline, and then you will see. I can tell you, like in the Leviticus, it says 6 days you shall work, the seventh day you shall rest. It's a holy day. No? So
Yeah.
there you can see, okay, in a week, the seventh day you rest. And then you'll see the next commandment goes over to a time per year. So you not only
Okay.
have a Sabbath every seventh day in the week, you also have Kodesh. The word is Kodesh. It's like holy, sacred, appointed times. And this is where you see in Genesis 1 verse 14, it talks about, our Bible says is translated sometimes to seasons, but the word is actually Muadim. It's called appointed times. So it means it's like you have an appointment for your dentist appointment, and you will actually have people to say that will be negative to if you start following the sun and the moon, because it's like sun worship or moon worship
Sun
or what.
worship, yeah, and moon worship.
Yes,
Yeah.
but if you have a clock on your wrist and you have an appointment, you look at the clock to be in time for your appointment. And it seems like the original calendar was the same. You shouldn't worship your watch. And I think today we have a problem with that also. This time.
Yes.
I don't have time to read
Right.
the Bible now. I want to do the things that I want to do. Um,
Yes.
and so, anyway, so the calendar, I figured things out on the calendar, but there's no guarantees that I'm correct. But if you just read the scriptures and see what is the instructions that we should do, even if you do not know when the year starts or when the month starts, but then you will see there is a sequence of appointed things. And the weird thing is, God actually says that this is a sign that between me and you, that you are my people and I am your God. So obedience to his instructions proves actually that we are reading his book and following his instructions, which makes sense.
Yeah. That's what we're supposed to do. What, like the Bible stands for basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Yes,
But
yes,
we don't read it. Most
yes.
of us, most of the Christians don't know what it says. But I've heard you talk about this a lot, and I'm actually looking forward to doing this because I haven't done that. I always hear you talk about the calendar, and it never really makes sense to me. But I think if I'm going to put this out, um, like you said, do my own homework, my own research, then it's going to become real to me, because um, I think God talks to all of us in different ways. And like I said, last week I told a bit about my testimony, and I think this is going to be special because now I can see how God spoke to you, and yeah, hopefully all of us listening also would get something out of it, and yeah, learn to grow closer to Him. Yeah.
I must just add, might feel cumbersome just to do this exercise by yourself, but in training, if you do practical theory and then practical soon after that, and after the practical you do theory, it's totally different than just going to a school where you just have theory education. And the bad part is
Yeah.
in our world, students like children go through school many years, 12 years and more. And when you're actually qualified, you are basically useless because you don't understand what you've got all this technical
Exactly.
knowledge, but you can't apply it.
Yeah.
You've never
No
seen
experience.
you've never seen how to apply it, where to apply it.
Yes.
So to truly learn, you have to uh, experience the practical part and then the theory part with that. And I think this is where we lack a lot in theology. We just do the
Yeah.
theory, and we don't understand what it's about.
Well, and I think, yeah, most of us, we just grow up in church and you just go because that's the right thing to do because your mom says so, do that. But you don't have the understanding of why we do this. And that's where,
Yes.
um,
So,
yeah,
because to be a apologist, apologist is like to reason about scriptures, and most of us, I mean, I never could do that because you don't actually know what you're talking about. You don't have
no,
background. It's just like, I believe. What do you believe? Why do you believe? Yeah.
exactly.
So once you
No,
see,
just go to church on a Sunday, listen to somebody preach, and sometimes fall asleep or something. And yeah, it's not real.
yes, until the what
Yeah.
I experienced, that the Bible seems to be like a self-correcting book, or basically the supernatural influences that will show
Mm.
you what's actually written there. And even if it's deliberately being manipulated, actually provides you more evidence, because who actually takes the time to try and rewrite Harry Potter or any other book to make false copies so that people will
Yes,
understand the story differently? But it seems like that's the case
exactly.
with the Bible. People will will try and reinterpret it to get the main message
The,
twisted. And but
yes.
yes, but
Or just
anyway,
get their desired effect, what they want.
yes,
Can just add, because you said the Bible is powerful and it is definitely supernatural. I think and that's why we have to debate and exactly why can all the other religions can't be criticized against, but nobody has a problem criticizing Christianity and calling Christian terrible, Jesus, they can say terrible things about Jesus. I saw this video of a guy saying he's an atheist, and he said, day one of pretending that Jesus is real, he was like doing a test, and he was like, I'm just going to show how ridiculous this is. I'm going to pretend that I'm a Christian, and I'm going to pretend Jesus is real. And I don't know till what day. I don't know if he finished the whole 30 days, but then it just cuts to him where he is crying and he says, guys, God is real. I mean, he went from being a complete atheist to quoting the Bible in less than a month. And he's
yeah,
like, God met him. So, I mean, just that of like starting out as a joke is one of the things that shows you
yes,
this is real.
yes.
It's not a joke.
Yeah, people can actually search. There's a testimony where this woman was also in the university and atheist, and then somebody said, "No, let's go to this. There's a show. It's called Fry a Christian." So Christians would be
Oh,
there, and then atheists will ask them difficult questions to put them in a bad spot, and
oh
so they
wow.
can ask them anything, and then they'll answer it from the Bible. Yeah? And that shows you
Okay.
to get on a spot like that where you are prepared that people can mock you and ask you anything and be prepared to give a nice, decent answer. And she said, so
Yeah.
she went there and it was like, it's nice and fun, these ridiculous idiots that we'll make fun of. And so
Yeah.
eventually she's telling her testimony after everything she heard, these ridiculous people, the replies they gave made her think. And so now eventually
Wow.
she's one of them. So,
Oh, I'm full of goosebumps. But I think that's the thing, and that's where humbleness comes in. We shouldn't be scared to look like an idiot,
Yes.
to the world.
Yeah.
It's fine if that's going to help someone in the end to also come to Christ, and all of us can go to heaven together. Then I'll look like an idiot all day long. So yeah,
We just know that we are all basically idiots. Because
yes.
as soon as you become prideful and you think that you know everything, then you're one of the worst.
Yes. I will be back next week and I will display my homework that I've done. And hopefully, somebody else also watching would also take you up on the challenge. And
Yes.
we'll report back next week, and then you can continue with the rest of your testimony.
I think a good plan would be you would be doing your homework. If people can post their homework on the comments, maybe so that people can, once you figure it out, then we can compare, and then you'll see that we think we're reading and understanding, but because I've seen people compile, people, me, myself, you compile
Okay.
something from the Bible until somebody show you, but that's not actually what's written there. Let me just read it with you, and you see like, oh, okay, I missed that. So
Yeah. That's why Bible study is important.
yes,
So you can do it in a group.
and fellowship. Yes, we need to have
Yes.
fellowship so that we can help each other. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Vicky.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Dad. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining
Okay.
us.
Bye.